A group of 6 friends vow to become the best treasure hunters, but one of them, Cry, realizes he's not cut out for it. Despite this, his friends make him the leader of the group, and so their journey to fulfill their dreams begins. The story opens on a sunny day, where a red-haired boy inspires his friends to grow up and become treasure hunters in the capital, Zabrudia. Years later, we see one of those boys, Cry, who explains that treasure hunters are the most admired people in the world. Treasure hunters travel far and wide, searching for runes called treasure chambers, where they find hidden treasures. However, they must fight monsters called phantoms to obtain them. Those who succeed gain wealth and glory. Cry goes to one of the most prestigious guilds in the capital, called First Steps, hoping to be recruited as a member. Cry knows that for any treasure hunter, having skilled companions is vital for survival. A pretty girl behind him greets him, as he seems to be the friendliest person around. She introduces herself as Ruda Runebeck, a level 3 hunter. Cry introduces himself but dismisses the greeting. Ruda notices the large number of candidates and mentions that she used to manage on her own, but the White Wolf's den is impossible for her to conquer. An unpleasant man overhears their conversation and mocks her, calling her a noob and telling her to go home rather than embarrass herself. Cry tries to stay unnoticed. Ruda, offended, draws a pair of knives. A couple of officers notice the commotion and warn them that if they keep fighting, neither of them will be allowed into the guild. This is enough to calm them down, and they become more friendly. Finally, they enter the bar where interviews are held, and Cry admits it's his 5th attempt, as he lacks natural talent, but clings to his dream. Ruda asks about a small group, and Cry explains that they are Arc Brave, the Sons of the Holy Spirit, the strongest group present, having cleared a level 7 chamber with only 6 members. They are the elite. Cry points out that the blonde man is the leader, Arc Rodin, a level 7 hunter. If Arc approves of you, your success is guaranteed, but he hasn't accepted anyone yet. Ruda then asks about the empty table next to them. The hunter who insulted her earlier approaches again, this time more friendly, introducing himself as Greg Zangief, a level 4 hunter. He explains that the empty table belongs to the group that founded First Steps, known as the Tormented. Cry knows more about them. They are a group of 5 extremely talented hunters who recently arrived in the capital and quickly became one of the top teams. Their full name is Tormented Souls, and they are Cry's childhood friends. Greg mentions that the crowd is large because, for the first time, the Tormented Souls are looking for new members, though he suspects it's just a rumor since they aren't at their table. In the crowd, a young hunter loudly calls out to the Tormented, claiming to be a level 4 hunter deserving of recruitment. A cute girl named Tino interrupts him, telling him to be more modest. Her friend tries to calm her, but Tino insists she'll only knock him out, as that's what her sister would want. The arrogant idiot keeps shouting. Tensions rise and the whole bar prepares for a fight. Cry tells Ruda it's best to keep their distance and suggests stepping out for a moment. As the fighters prepare to draw their weapons, Cry sneaks through the crowd. Somehow Tino senses Cry, and when she's attacked, she loses interest in the fight. She quickly appears in front of Cry, blocking his way and asking where he's going, referring to him as Master. Arc Rodin also approaches and greets him, saying they've been waiting for him, as he's the guild master and leader of the Tormented Souls. Everyone is shocked to learn that this is Cry Andre, a level 8 hunter. Years earlier, a young Cry had just arrived in the capital and was exploring the beginner chambers with his friends. They had cleared all of them in record time. Suddenly, a giant worm attacked Cry from behind, trying to devour him, but one of his friends saved him. A small girl approached to check if he was okay, relieved that he was unhurt since that was the last phantom. His friend congratulated him, assuming his plan had been to act as bait so he could eliminate the final monster. Cry realized that his level was far below his friends, who possessed monstrous strength by comparison. He knew he would soon become a burden to them, although his friends were too kind to say anything, so he made the best decision for the group. He would leave them. One afternoon, he announced his departure, confident that his friends would go further without him. The red-haired boy admitted they hadn't had a leader for a while and suggested Cry become the group's leader. Cry couldn't believe what he was hearing. All his friends agreed, delighted at the idea. They considered him the best candidate to lead them, and that's how, without any special skills, Cry became the leader of one of the most distinguished groups of the time. Ever since then, he has only wanted to retire as a hunter. Returning to the present, Cry naps at the Tormented's table, while his new friends Ruda and Greg look at him, unable to believe he's the leader. Arc laughs at him like an old friend, but Tino asks Arc to stay away from the Master, whom she sees as fake and superficial. Arc laughs at her accusations and mentions that Cry was secretly observing the candidates, but Cry denies this, saying he simply fell asleep, which is why he's not wearing his uniform. Arc laughs again, but thinks he's joking. Cry knows Arc isn't the only one who tends not to believe what he says. Tino warns Cry that Ark is a jerk and asks him to kick him out of the guild. Tino is Tino Shade, a level 4 solo hunter affiliated with the group Huela, and she's also the apprentice of Liz, a member of the Tormented Souls. Ark asks Cry if he's seen anyone with potential. Cry says no, but regrets it, asking if Ark would trust him if he said he found the perfect member for their team. Ark agrees immediately, shocking everyone in the bar, as they are finally choosing someone. One of Ark's teammates suggests thinking it over, but Ark refuses, agreeing to accept just one member that Cry recommends. Cry isn't surprised by how easily manipulated his friend is, but Ark's teammate glares at him. Tino thanks Cry for considering her worthy, but she declares she's determined to join the Tormented Souls. The red-haired idiot who started the fight continues to provoke her. Cry calms Tino and asks the guy if he's in any other group. The boy introduces himself as Gilbert Bush. Cry knows Gilbert is still too inexperienced to be of much help, but maybe with Ark's training he could become useful soon. Cray stands up and says he'll recommend him to Ark under one condition. He asks Gilbert what's most important for a hunter. Cry answers his own question, never lose, and asks Gilbert to show him his ability to never lose, adding arrogantly that he's never lost since becoming a hunter. This shocks Gilbert. Deep down, Cry knows it's because he's never fought for real. Cry removes a ring and announces that he'll recommend whoever brings it to Ark, then throws it into the crowd. Gilbert catches it, but Tino quickly kicks him in the face, sending the ring flying. The ring rolls across the floor as everyone starts fighting over it. Cry declares that the ring is a treasure and the winner can keep it. He then says goodbye to Ark, Ruta, and Greg, slipping out the back door as the bar descends into chaos. The next day, at the guild's base, Eva Renfield, the second in command of First Steps, tells Cry that his antics at the bar made the newspapers and that the Adventurers Association wants to see him. Cry asks what Ark thought about it. She replies that Ark just laughed, prompting Cry to ask her to send him the repair bill for the bar and have him visit the association. Eva notes that Cry depends too much on Ark, emphasizing that the association specifically wants to see him. Cry knows he has no choice, but insists he won't go without an escort, since his treasure used for disguise has broken. It was called Reverse Face, a mask that changed the appearance of whoever wore it. Eva assures him that no one will attack him, so Cry has no more excuses and heads to the meeting, where he begs for forgiveness, claiming it wasn't his fault or intention. The association's manager, Gank Welter, tells him he won't get off that easily. Cry points out that only one place was destroyed and no one was hurt. He mentions that he's friends with the owner and thinks they can reach an agreement. Gank gives him a pitiful look and says the guild must set an example and take responsibility. Cry receives a penalty, a very difficult mission that no one else wants. He sits across from Gank and arrogantly says he's exaggerating, adding that as an ex-hunter, Gank should understand his situation. With a single look, Gank intimidates Cry into silence, forcing him to accept the penalty, although Cray tries to make it seem like he's grateful for everything Gank has done for him and insists he's done nothing wrong. Gank's companion points out that Cry has improved his smooth-talking skills. Cry reviews the book with mission records, determined to find an easy one to pass on to Ark. He checks the available chambers and finally finds a level 3 mission. He tells Gank that he chooses the bone collection mission. Gank's companion informs him that it's actually a rescue mission and that he shouldn't take it lightly. Once Cry leaves, Gank and his companion talk about how the boy hasn't changed, with Gank mentioning that, unknowingly, Cry picked the hardest and most dangerous mission of all. When Cry arrives at the base, he finds out that Ark isn't there. Tino tells him that some nobles summoned Ark and that he'll be gone for a while. She proudly shows Cry that she's wearing the ring and is very happy to keep it. Cry informs her that it's just a precision ring and then asks if she's free at the moment. Excited, Tino assures him that she's ready and will always make herself available for him. Cry pulls out the mission notice and Tino disappears upon realizing what it's about. Cry unclasps a chain from his waist that takes the form of a wolf, which Cry calls Silver, and tells it that it knows what to do. Soon, Silver returns with Tino as a prisoner. She accuses him of tricking her, saying she thought he was going to invite her for ice cream, but instead, he's sending her on a dangerous penalty mission with bad pay and a lot of responsibility. She also tells him that, as a level 4 hunter, it's impossible for her, and that she needs his help to complete it. Cry had already considered this, so he sends her to join Greg, Gilbert, and Ruta. We see the group of tormented souls from 6 years ago, standing in front of the Adventurers Association building. Cry, looking nervous, suggests postponing their visit. His companions remind him that it was his idea to say they were ready for the capital. Cry tells them that they are ready, but he would only be a burden. His red-haired companion, Luke, ignores him, kicks the door open, raises his wooden sword, and boldly asks who the best swordsman is, declaring that he himself is the best in the world. Everyone around sees them as nothing more than a group of rowdy kids. Their companion, Liz, Frustrated, scolds Luke for his behavior and introduces herself as the best thief in the world, adding that they've come to become treasure hunters. At the registration desk, Luke talks to a large man and proudly mentions that Cry, their leader, taught him not to rely on his weapon, which is why he only uses a wooden sword. Cry, mortified, watches as the receptionist hands them the registration form, asking them to choose a team name and emblem. Cry realizes they haven't thought about this at all. The receptionist suggests that the name should reflect their values, something meaningful. Cry glances at his friends who are all relying on him to choose the perfect name. Desperate to make a bad impression and get kicked out of the group, Cry picks a name no one would ever take seriously, Tormented Souls, and draws a skull for their emblem. His companions are stunned. They remind him that they're a group of heroes, not villains, and that the name makes them sound like outcasts. Cry, seeing an opportunity, insists that without this name he can't continue, admitting he's a bad leader and would rather support them from the sidelines. To his surprise, the group immediately changes their tune, deciding the name is perfect. Thus, the Tormented Souls are born. Back in the present, Cry and Tino meet with Greg, Ruta, and Gilbert in a bar. Greg still finds it hard to believe that Cry is the Thousand Tricks, a level 8 hunter. Tino declares that if they truly understand the Master's greatness, they should kneel before him. Cry assures them that isn't necessary. The Thousand Tricks is Cry's second nickname, a mark of prestige for hunters. But Gilbert remains unconvinced, refusing to believe Cray is the strongest. Tino, furious at Gilbert's disrespect, declares she doesn't want to work with someone who can't recognize her master's strength. Cry realizes she's described him perfectly. Cry asks if they're all willing to take on the mission. Gilbert refuses again, not believing Cry is worthy of leading the team. Greg demands he show some respect, leading to a heated argument. Cry steps in, agreeing that Gilbert shouldn't be part of the team. Greg accepts this decision and turns to Ruta, asking if she still wants to go to the White Wolf's den. She hesitates, saying it's not exactly what she wanted. Gilbert interrupts, angrily asking if they really intend to exclude him. Cry calmly replies that it's what he asked for, and tells Tino she can choose anyone else from the guild if she needs an additional member. Tino once again begs Cry to join them, but he refuses and starts to leave. Gilbert challenges him to a duel, proposing that if he wins, Cry will join the mission. He refuses to follow someone weaker than himself. Cry, unfazed, replies that if Gilbert wants to fight, he'll have to duel Tino, the leader of the group. Tino eagerly accepts. They move to an arena where she shows off her incredible flexibility, though Cry seems indifferent. Gilbert warns Cry that after he defeats Tino, Cry will be next. Tino, with a smirk, tells him that she's a level 4 hunter and still nothing compared to her master. She tosses aside her weapons, intending to finish him off without killing him. Greg worries that Tino, as a thief, is at a disadvantage against a swordsman. Cry agrees, but knows that Tino has grown into a skilled fighter with plenty of combat experience. The real issue, however, is Gilbert's powerful Kriba sword. Gilbert disarms himself, vowing not to use his sword against an unarmed woman. Cry knows this is a mistake. Tino prepares to end things quickly so she can go get ice cream with the master afterward. Cry, caught off guard, tells her he never agreed to that. She threatens to throw a tantrum, and he reluctantly agrees to go, but only after she completes her assignment. The fight begins, and Tino charges in with blinding speed. Gilbert barely dodges, but doesn't see the kick to his face that sends him crashing into the wall. Gilbert stands and clumsily swings back, but Tino effortlessly dodges and captures his arm, twisting it painfully. She informs him she held back and orders him never to disrespect the master again, demanding that from now on, he worship Cry like a god, pray to him 3 times a day, and bring offerings to her to deliver on his behalf. In a rage, Gilbert breaks free, only for Tino to knock him out with a single blow. She thanks the master for teaching her everything she knows, though Cry knows he didn't teach her anything. The others are left in awe of her strength. Gilbert, groaning on the ground, tries to stand, thinking back to his childhood when he trained tirelessly to become the best. As he grew stronger, he convinced himself he was unbeatable. Tino urges him to use his sword if he wants to continue the fight. He refuses, and she reminds him that pride is meaningless if it gets him killed. Gilbert realizes she's right. If this had been a real fight, he'd be dead. He finally understands his own weakness. Cry asks if Gilbert left his previous group because of the gap in strength between them. Gilbert is surprised Cry knows this. Cry admits that the same thing happened in his own group, but they never abandon anyone, or rather, they don't let anyone leave. Gilbert finally begins to grasp the true power behind the 1,000 tricks. Cry approaches the sword, gripping it confidently as flames suddenly engulf him. He starts analyzing the sword's magical elements, quickly recognizing that while it's simple, it holds immense power. Gilbert watches in awe as Cry skillfully manipulates the sword's magic, enhancing it with ease, something Gilbert has never been able to do. Mana is the foundation of their world. It's abundant yet invisible to the naked eye. However, in treasure chambers, ley lines and other forces condense mana, creating anomalies that sometimes manifest as parallel worlds. It remains a phenomenon not fully understood. One of these treasure chambers is the White Wolf's Den. It once teemed with silver wolves until they were hunted to extinction, and the chamber mysteriously appeared in its place. Cry reviews the report about the den and feels a wave of relief that he didn't join the mission himself. It terrifies him. Eva questions his decision to send rookies there, but he reassures her, explaining that they're level 4 hunters on a level 3 mission. He also thanks her for the information about why Gilbert left his previous group, adding that it came as a surprise. Eva mentions she heard about the sword display Cry performed. He downplays it, saying it was simple and that even Gilbert could replicate it. Cry adds that he didn't get hurt only because of one of his many treasures, which he admits is a bit of an obsession. He stores the sword with a collection of magical rings, confessing that collecting treasures has become almost addictive. He wonders if Gilbert might be willing to sell him the sword. Eva flatly refuses to indulge his treasure-hoarding habits, reminding him that he already has enough. Cry nervously explains that each treasure is unique, granting different abilities. Eva shakes her head, reminding him that while the group doesn't lack money, he should show some restraint. Since their earnings are split equally, he makes money without lifting a finger yet still spends extravagantly. Cry suddenly remembers he hasn't recharged any of his treasures lately. Later, he heads to a cafe with a girl and a man. The girl imbues his jewelry with a spell to recharge them, while the man shares troubling news. A phantom appeared on the northern road, destroying an entire caravan and killing 3 high-level soldiers. Witnesses described it as wolf-like, leading everyone to believe it came from the White Wolf's den. Cry nervously tries to reassure himself that his friends are capable enough to handle the situation. But the couple notes that phantoms have become unusually aggressive in recent months, and the difficulty of the White Wolf's den has been upgraded. It's now classified as extremely dangerous. They mention Rudolf DeVoot, a famous level 5 hunter who recently disappeared while exploring the den. Cry realizes that this is the same group he had sent Tino's team to rescue. His face pales as he checks the mission notice. The couple asks if everything is all right. Cry, panicked, admits that he sent Tino along with a newly formed group into that very chamber. The two look at him in shock, calling it reckless and akin to sending them to their deaths. Cry quickly excuses himself, leaving the cafe in a hurry. As he walks, he tries to calm himself, convincing himself that his friends will manage. He reassures himself that Gilbert is talented and has a powerful sword. But then, a chilling thought strikes him. Did they remember to recharge the sword after the demonstration? In the forest, Tino and her group sense something is off. Tino quietly tells them that something about this mission seems suspicious. Cry doesn't do things without a reason, she reminds them. Her companions initially express doubts, but after thinking it over, they realize that Cry is a cunning individual, well known for his eccentric methods of measuring their strength and potential. They trust he wouldn't send them on a mission that was truly impossible. Meanwhile, back at headquarters, Cry is filled with regret, admitting to himself that he did, in fact, send them on an impossible mission at random. Now, he's frantically wondering what to do next. He knows that Tino is far too stubborn to admit she's in over her head and call for a retreat. At this hour, there's no way to form a support team. Realizing the situation is dire, Cry concludes that he'll have to go himself. He pulls a hidden lever behind a bookshelf, revealing a secret passage. If he can catch up to them, he can claim it was all a mistake, and then send Ark to complete the mission. Back in the forest, Tino's group finally encounters their enemy, a massive red wolf clad in armor. They ready themselves for battle. Back at headquarters, Cry quickly rummages through his collection of treasures, grabbing anything he thinks might be useful for the mission. He pauses in front of a safe, contemplating whether or not to take the treasure stored inside. As he prepares to leave, Ava catches him, eyeing the many treasures he's packed. She questions his plans, and Cry stammers out an excuse, claiming he's just going for a walk. But Ava sees through him, knowing he's worried about his companions. She notices something hanging around his neck, Citri's slime, a highly illegal item in the Empire. Cry hurriedly tries to cover it up, denying that he's carrying something so dangerous, but he knows it's a last resort, something he might need if things go terribly wrong. Stepping out onto the balcony, Eva asks if he really intends to go alone. Cry responds that he does. After all, the treasure he's bringing only works for one person. He throws on a cloak, which immediately sprouts wings, lifting him into the air. Eva watches him fly off, knowing that the treasure he's using was designed as a one-way projectile. It can't turn or stop once in flight. Cry is essentially launching himself like a human missile straight into the mission. We see a day in the past when tormented souls had just arrived in the capital, Zembrudia. In a bar, Luke is lamenting the fact that his sword, the Testament Blade, broke in the last battle. No one is surprised, as it was made of wood. They talk about the mission they've just completed, and are surprised to have encountered a Cyclops in a level 1 chamber, as Cyclops are usually at least level 4. Although it was difficult, they managed to defeat it. A drunk man overhears their conversation and mocks them, saying it's impossible they found a Cyclops in that chamber, and bets the boys were beaten up by goblins. 2 girls from the group then show him a suitcase with a Cyclops head inside. The whole bar is terrified at the sight of it. In the present, Gilbert defeats the huge wolf that blocked their path. The 4 of them fought hard to bring it down, and they realized this ghost was too strong for a level 3 chamber. Greg asks Gilbert why he didn't use the fire from his sword. Gilbert explains that the mana from the Kriba sword ran out, and recalls how Cry used up all of its flames, knowing it was depleted at that moment. Greg thinks that given the situation, the people they came to rescue must already be resting in peace, and it would be best to go back, but Tino refuses to turn back. She insists that this is all part of Cry's elaborate plan to test them, and assures them that the survivors are still alive. She also speculates that Cry drained the sword's mana because he didn't want them relying on treasures. At the entrance of the chamber, they encounter more wolves like the one they just defeated, some of them wearing armor and wielding weapons. They assume the wolves are too large to move freely inside the chamber, so it's best to fight them there. Gilbert takes up his sword, determined to fight his way to the chamber, but Tino stops him, reminding him that as the group's leader, his duty is to keep the team alive. The master entrusted him with this task and leadership, and she is ready to act accordingly. She explains the plan. Ruda and she will distract the enemies while the boys attack from behind. She knows the situation is dire, but refuses to lose any members. Meanwhile, Cry is flying at full speed toward them, praying that at least Tino survives, even if it means sacrificing the other 3. The group makes it into the chamber, and the battle begins. They defeat 1 wolf with ease, working well as a team, which gives them a great advantage over the wolves who fight individually. Tino knows that even though this is an improvised team, it's not bad at all. Gilbert, despite talking too much and being impulsive, is very strong and capable. Greg has a lot of experience and coordinates well with everyone. Ruda may not stand out much in combat, but she's excellent at locating enemies, allowing Tino to fight freely. This convinces her that everything was part of Cray's plan. Gilbert and Greg face off against a wolf, and Gilbert blocks its sword. He recalls his time with his old team. After completing a mission, everyone was exhausted except for Gilbert, who accused them of not trying hard enough and, frustrated, abandoned them. He knew they were trying, but their levels were becoming more and more distant. Greg pushes the wolf back, giving Gilbert a chance to finish it off. As he does, he thinks he's finally found a team where he can fight on the same level. They enter a much larger room, and Tino guesses they are nearing the chamber boss. Greg suggests retreating, but Tino reminds him they got this far without being injured and should be able to handle the boss. She acknowledges that despite his large size, Greg is very cautious, which is valuable, but sometimes it can be a hindrance since he'll never improve if he always plays it safe. Greg agrees. He's seen many of his comrades fall along the way, and since then, whenever he sees an imposing enemy, he chooses not to engage. Even so, Tino knows he wants to change that, which is why he sought out a guild that day. She tells them that Cry didn't assemble this team by chance. They were all chosen meticulously by the master, which makes him a god. Ruda asks why she was chosen. Tino has no idea, but guesses it's because of her body. Cry continues flying over the forest, searching for Tino, but unable to spot her. He flies faster and wonders why the creator didn't include a break. He plummets down, crashes through a chamber wall, and bounces off the walls. Meanwhile, the team faces the chamber boss, a wolf 3 times larger than the others, wielding an imposing axe. The team dodges its powerful attacks. Tino analyzes the situation and notices the enemy isn't wearing a helmet, so she assumes that's its weak point. She tells the team to block its attack so she can counter. Gilbert and Greg begin their assault. Tino dodges the wolf's slashes with ease, and Ruda is surprised by her calm and cold expression. The wolf cuts Greg's weapon, leaving him defenseless. Ruda rushes in and pushes him away to dodge the attack. Tino seizes the opportunity, grabs her weapon, and jumps on the wolf's head. The wolf hits her in the leg, but she doesn't stop and attacks the back of the neck. The wolf is defeated and slowly disappears. Ruda moves to help Tino, but she doesn't need it. Tino applies a potion to his wound, which heals instantly. The whole team is happy to have reached the end, as all that remains is to complete the rescue. Greg laments his broken sword, and Tino gives him his. Just then, they are ambushed by 3 more large white wolves emerging from a cave. Tino thinks his master's test is going too far. She believes their best option is to run into one of the crevices where the wolves won't be able to fight effectively, but a wolf blocks the entrance. Gilbert and Greg are willing to sacrifice themselves so their teammates can escape. Tino thinks of her master and wonders if there really is nothing else they can do, then remembers that she has her precision ring. She tells her teammates that she won't leave anyone behind and asks them to cover her. Her teammates attack one of the wolves, but their attacks are ineffective. Tino aims the ring at the wolf's eye and fires a beam of light, causing massive damage. Gilbert moves in to take advantage, but the wolf strikes him, sending him crashing into a wall. Tino rushes to his aid. He apologizes, but she tells him it's her fault for not giving precise instructions. The wolf recovers and prepares to finish them off. Tino accepts that this is the end. At that moment, Cry crashes through one of the walls and finally lands in front of Tino. The wolves look at him in fear. Cry sees the wolves and wonders what kind of ghosts they are. One of the wolves attacks with its sword, but before it can touch him, one of Cry's treasures activates, enveloping his body in electricity, leaving him unharmed. The wolf, astonished, falls to the ground. Cray smiles and apologizes to the wolf, telling it he has 17 lives and points his finger at it. The rings on his hand begin forming a large, powerful spell, and several beams of light are fired, striking the wolf directly. The team watches in awe, realizing they are witnessing a level 8 hunter in action. Meanwhile, Cry thinks he didn't want to cast such a powerful spell, but isn't sure what these beasts are and is shocked to be in a level 3 chamber. The wolf opens its eyes and manages to stand. Everyone is surprised that it survived such an attack, except Cry, who knows those rings aren't as powerful and are mostly for show. The wolves surround him. Cry appears calm on the outside, but internally is frantically wondering why these wolves are carrying weapons and arrows. Still, he's glad to be wearing 17 protection rings. He doesn't care about completing the mission. He just wants to go home. The wolves aim all their weapons at him and prepare to use them. Knowing he has no other option, Cry grabs the treasure hanging from his neck, opens it, and sniffs it. The wolves watch in confusion, unsure of his plan. Cray throws it into the air, and once it reaches the wolf's eye level, he fires a beam from his ring. The capsule explodes, releasing a gas that paralyzes the wolves. Cry takes advantage of this and orders Tino and her team to escape. They all run, but they can't go very fast because Tino is still injured from their previous encounter. However, Ruta notices that Cry is slowing down to cover her and the entire rear. In reality, he's just too tired to run anymore. Tino believes the master is protecting her and thinks he's being just as kind as the day they met. She remembers a time when she was a small, innocent girl, cornered by a couple of thugs who saw she was alone and were about to rob her. Tino cried in fear, barely able to call for help. At that moment, Cry and the rest of the tormented souls appeared, and in seconds they dealt with the 2 men who fled in terror. Tino looked at the group, who were all wearing strange masks, and asked them who they were. Cry responded that it wasn't necessary for them to introduce themselves. From that moment, it became Tino's dream to join that group of hunters, and she reveres Cry as a god. Cry and the entire team managed to escape. Tino is embarrassed in front of her master because she couldn't complete the mission he gave her. Ruta approaches and explains to Cry that Tino did everything she could, and if not for her, they all would have fallen long ago. Cry agrees, apologizes to them, and notices how much Tino has exerted herself by the state of her body, covered in dirt and wounds, especially the one on her leg. Tino is embarrassed that her master is looking at her and says it still hurts a lot. Cry apologizes and uses one of his treasures to heal her leg, leaving it as good as new. Gilbert is surprised that he uses a treasure for healing, and Cry, somewhat offended, thinks that he uses a treasure for absolutely everything, and there's nothing wrong with that. Greg asks if he defeated the wolves. Cry replies that he didn't, and just did what he thought was best for the situation. He thinks it's best for them all to leave. Everyone follows Cry, who suddenly realizes he doesn't know which way the exit is. Cry shows his companions all his magical treasures. His companions are amazed by the many he has. Cry tells them that he loves them and can't help but buy as many as he can. Liz asks if he'll give her one, and he says yes, since he had promised. Luke thinks it's unfair and says everyone deserves one. Another one of his companions says that would be fair, since she often has to carry all his stuff. One of the girls finds a small backpack among the treasures and asks what it is. He explains it's a magic bag that can store more than it appears. The girls are amazed since something that modifies space is rare and valuable. Cry tells them it's not that valuable because it can only store chocolate. The girls are disappointed because it means it's not very useful. Liz chooses a bracelet and shows it to their leader. Cry wants to ask her to take it off, but suddenly, the girl starts to fall and spin on the ground. Cry explains that it's the labyrinth ring, and when worn, it alters your senses, confusing you so much that it destroys your body. Luke finds and wields a large, strange-looking sword. Cry tries to ask him to put it down, but it's too late. Luke's expression changes, and Cry tells him it's a cursed sword. Luke, in a fit of rage, says he wants to destroy the world. He attacks his companions, but they manage to stop him, while Liz continues to fall to the ground. These dangerous treasures are what helped Liz and Luke train. Back to the present. In the White Wolf's lair, Cray leads the group, but the place feels like a labyrinth, with each hallway looking the same as the last. He wonders why, if Tino and Ruda are thieves, they are not leading. Gilbert asks Cray what his plan is, suspecting that he wants to lead them out. But Tino says that figuring out his plan is part of the training because it is impossible for this path to lead them to the exit. Tino had memorized the map of the lair before entering and knows that they are only going deeper into the cavern. If they want to leave, they must return to the boss chamber. They continue on. Ruda asks Cry where they are headed, but the truth is that Cry doesn't know either. He is just pretending to not know what he is doing. At one point, he decides that they should turn a corner, but notices that the others are not following him. Everyone is amazed because they have just discovered where their leader was taking them. Cry returns to see what his companions discovered. They are the survivors whom they came to rescue. Cry is surprised that they could see them from so far away. The leader of the group, Rudolph Devoot, thanks them for their help. Tino tells him that his thanks should go to his master, who led them there. Cry says that it was just a coincidence, and the others are amazed by his incredible humility. Ruda tells them that despite the healing potions, they are very weak and need to eat. Cry has the perfect treasure for this. From his magic backpack, he begins to take out and distribute chocolates to everyone. Tino is amazed by her master's skills. He not only saved them from the wolves, but also found the survivors and managed to feed them and lift their spirits. Greg is happy to see the survivors and mentions that when he found out they were all level 5, he thought there must be some mistake. Rudolph mentions that they were not prepared for what they found. Gilbert is shocked and says that although the wolves were really strong, a level 5 group should have been able to handle them. Rudolph explains that the wolves were not the problem. They were all defeated by a single enemy, a small ghost with a skull covering its face. He believes it to be the reincarnation of the curse of the Silver Moons. When the humans exterminated the wolves, all the resentment of the animals merged and accumulated into a mass of power, which is the only explanation for such a powerful enemy. Rudolph says that his strength and dexterity were comparable to that of 1,000 swords, the most powerful swordsman in the capital. He was the apprentice of the Holy Sword, and later, he studied all forms of combat until he became a sword maniac, cutting through anything with his wooden sword. He is Cry's friend and member of the Tormented Souls, Luke. Cry knows that it is impossible for a ghost to be on Luke's level. Otherwise, Luke himself would have come to eliminate him. Still, Cray knows that Tino would not have been able to fight that monster. He truly regrets not waiting for Ark. Rudolph tells them that in their previous encounter, the ghosts seemed to be toying with them, so they did not kill them, but he is sure that they will not be so lucky in the next fight. Ruda asks Cry what they should do. Cry thinks for a few seconds and proposes that they leave without facing that thing, but since Tino is the leader of the mission, they will follow his orders. Tino feels that she is not at the level to lead the master. Cry insists, reminding him that it is a training session and that if necessary he will help. But deep down, Cry is terrified and does not want to continue leading. Tino agrees since his leg injury has healed and he can now run normally. Cry reminds him that he is leading a team so he should not rush, although the only one who cannot keep up is him. They walk towards the exit and quickly reach it without incident. Rudolph thanks them again, insisting that if that thing appears, he is willing to sacrifice himself to buy time for the others. He only asks that they save his companions. Tino assures him that he won't leave him behind, and that with the master on his team, it's impossible for them not to survive. Cry is surprised that they trust him so much, since if he were alone with Tino, he would have fled at the first opportunity. One of his companions offers to stay behind if necessary to save Rudolph, but Cry tells him that this is not the time to argue. Suddenly, they hear the echo of a roar. The enemies are approaching. Cry only has 5 protection rings, and if he uses them too much, he could die. He has no more useful rings, and the precision 1 won't be enough to stop them. The strange ghost approaches, and everyone feels its immense power. Cry steps forward and asks Tino to back off. He plans to use the Nightwalker and shoot himself like a human missile. He may die, but maybe that will be enough. He is so cornered that his nerves have faded. Finally, the ghost appears, and everyone trembles before its great power. Behind him, another masked figure emerges. They know they don't stand a chance against 2 of them, but Cry recognizes the second figure and wonders what she's doing there. It's Liz, who with a powerful kick, knocks the ghost unconscious. Liz asks Cry if all these people are new members of his group. He replies no, and asks her to take off her mask. She takes off her mask, revealing her cute face, and hands Cry a sword she dropped on her way out. The others can't believe she's human, and Liz gets angry that they don't know who she is, even though their leader is right there. She calls them newbies and is surprised that there are still people in the capital who don't know the tormented souls. Liz says she's sad because when she got home, she was told that Cry had gone to a treasure chamber, which made her very sad and embarrassed. The girl looks more and more upset. A scared Tino hides behind Cray. Liz, furious, says she can't believe her own apprentice can't be saved. She grabs Tino by the arms and Gilbert tries to stop her, but is knocked unconscious by a kick. Liz tells him not to interfere when she is in the middle of a conversation. She asks her apprentice if he is incompetent, if he has not received proper training, if he lacks talent, or if he simply has no ambition. Tino just looks at her in fear, and Liz, increasingly angry, demands an answer. She tells him that it is better to disappear than to cause more problems for Cry. Tino apologizes, while the ghost recovers. Cry calms Liz, telling her that Tino did very well and that he completed his mission. He also congratulates her, noting that she seems to be very controlled. Liz is happy with his recognition, and tells him that she has been practicing self-control a lot since he suggested it to her. The ghost summons the wolves to attack together. Liz tells Tino that it is his fault that they are being underestimated. He picks up his mask and prepares to fight. The wolf begins to shoot at them, but Liz does not flinch, even managing to stop all the bullets and arrange them around her. Liz tells him that that little gun won't do anything to him, and that she's already destroyed ancient weapons before. She then scolds Tino for being afraid of such a pathetic weapon. She tells him that he should crush ghosts like these along with their armor from above. Liz jumps up and crushes the poor wolf with a kick. The ghost attacks her with its sword, but Liz stops it with just her fingers, telling Tino that when she's attacked with a sword, she must stop it or deflect it. She knees the ghost and, in midair, delivers another blow that crashes it to the ground. On the ground, she continues to punch, while still scolding Tino, who begins to cry. Liz finishes the ghost off with a kick. Cry laughs because they thought that enemy was on the level of Luke, who Liz helps train. There is nothing and no one faster than Liz. She's so fast that she doesn't even leave a shadow behind, which is why they nicknamed her Weak Shadow. She is a level 6 hunter. Now much calmer, Liz embraces Cry with a much sweeter and more affectionate attitude than she had shown since her appearance. Upon returning, Gilbert gives Cray his sword of Purge. Despite the deep affection he has for him, he is willing to start from scratch, just as the tormented souls did. Afterwards, he says goodbye to his team, hoping that the next time they meet, he will be as powerful as Liz herself. His friends doubt that they can reach that level. Now we see a memory from 6 years ago. The tormented souls are trying on their new masks, which were custom made. Cry made a mistake with the order and forgot to request eye holes, but his companions like them because they protect them from blinding attacks and cover their entire face. They forgive their dear leader everything. 1 year earlier, a girl named Citri Smart, a level 2 hunter and alchemist of tormented souls, gives Cry a small necklace containing a slime, the same one he used to escape from the wolves. The girl wants him to keep it, as she believes he will be safer with it. Cry gladly accepts. Citri is part of the capital Science Institute and is the brains behind tormented souls. She is also considered a prodigy in science and alchemy. Cry congratulates her on her new invention, calling it Citri's slime, and remembers the times they played with slime as children. As he tries to open the capsule, Citri stops him and warns him that opening it could destroy the entire capital. In the present, Cry is searching for the slime around his house, as when he opened the capsule in the chamber, it was empty. He searches everywhere but can't find it. Previously, it was always kept in the safe, which is also a treasure, so no one could have stolen it. Cry becomes convinced that Citri played a prank on him and gave him an empty capsule. A group of hunters explore a chamber, amazed by the level of the ghosts they are facing, as they are much stronger than they should be. They are trying to figure out why all the creatures suddenly leveled up, as it is a crucial matter for the association. Miltrucos is even rumored to be investigating on his own. The next day, Cry wakes up sleep-deprived because he can't stop worrying about the slime. His assistant finds him and informs him that the association wants him to file a report on the White Wolf's lair. Cry tries to get out of this, saying that Tino was the team leader, but she tells him that Tino is training with Liz, so he can't make the report. Cry asks if anything unusual happened in the capital, but his assistant doesn't understand what he means. Cry wanted to know if Citri's slime had caused any trouble, but he doesn't want to admit his negligence just yet. She insists on investigating if something is going on in the capital, but Cry asks her not to, admitting that he's just paranoid. He decides to find Tino himself to make the report. She remains uneasy, knowing that Cry has a history of predicting natural disasters, chamber anomalies, and even altercations between the nobility. She has witnessed this many times and knows it's not a coincidence. Cry goes down to the basement, where Liz and Tino are training, and sees a group of hunters gathered together. Sven Anger, a level 6 hunter and leader of Obsidian Cross, asks Cry to calm Liz down since he won't let them train. Cry wants to refuse, claiming that monster hunting isn't his thing. Sven insists, saying that neither Anson nor Lucia are around, so it's his responsibility to check on Liz. He also questions why Liz was the only one who came back. Cry explains that he deactivated several traps to get to the boss room, but got bored and decided to turn back early. Sven can't believe it, since they went to a level 8 chamber, but warns him that if he doesn't stop her, Liz might take out Tino. Cry thinks he's exaggerating, but upon entering, he finds Tino severely injured, with Liz standing in front of her, repeatedly ordering her to get up, or she'll finish her off. Tino doesn't respond, so Liz prepares to deliver the final blow. Cry asks her to stop, saying that it's enough for today. Liz wants to continue her lesson, as she sees a lot of talent and potential in Tino, but he's still very weak. Cry says that he understands, but Tino has a limit, and he's already reached it today. Liz, in a somber tone, asks if he really wants to stop her. Cry, with a smile, says yes, and Liz immediately changes her attitude, becoming sweet and considerate, agreeing to call it a day. At that moment, Tino grabs Liz's ankle. Annoyed, Liz asks him why he interrupts her conversation with Cry, and Tino replies that he can still continue training a little longer. Tino stands up, and Cry notices that he's wearing a Tormented Souls mask. Liz is ready to continue with the training. Cry leaves the room and apologizes to the adventurers. They understand that he did what he could, and agree that it's in their best interest for Tino to become stronger. Sven changes the subject and asks about the northern route, which has been closed. They have coffee, and he tells Cry that several dangerous ghosts have appeared and have even torn apart the Night Order's group. Cry remembers hearing in the White Wolf's lair that ghosts were attacking travelers. Cry senses that something strange is going on and wonders if that's why Gank wants to see him. He curses Ark for not being there, knowing that he's the right man for almost any task, and is confident that if he leaves the job to him, everything will go well. He then plans to buy some time until Ark arrives to send him to Gank, but upon seeing Sven, he gets an idea. If he reunites Gank with the Obsidian Cross, he could let them handle the task. Cry then asks Sven if he would be willing to accept a mission for the association now that he can't train, and also asks him to inform Gank that he hasn't been able to see him. Before they can respond, Cry stands up and leaves. Sven's partner admits that it's impossible to know what Cry is thinking, since he always seems relaxed, no matter the problem. He wonders what he does all day since he's always busy, but sent his team on missions alone. Sven assures him that he's still too young to understand, but insists that Cry keeps the Tormented Souls and the guild together, and warns him to never underestimate Cry's power. Gank and his assistant discuss the recent changes at the White Wolf's lair. They find no clues as to what's causing the level increase in the chamber. Gank wants to talk to Cry, assuming he knows what's going on, since he went on that mission for no apparent reason, despite not going on missions for a long time. His assistant tells him that Sven informed him that Cry is busy and can't meet with them. Meanwhile, in a hidden laboratory inside a cave, a man watches an experiment in amazement. A group of men approach him and warn him that the association will soon discover his plans, especially if Cry is involved. But one of them thinks it's impossible for a group of hunters to understand the greatness of the work of the chief mage, the lead researcher of the Akashic Tower in the capital. The huge green beam in front of them absorbs the power of the ley lines and stores it, causing changes in the treasure chambers. and if the old man's plan succeeds, they will soon be able to create treasure chambers at will. The men know that leaving the place and starting over will be a major setback to their progress. Some men express some discontent with a certain Sophia who is in charge of the security system but hasn't returned in a while. The old man reassures them, informing them that he has allowed Sophia to take a leave of absence and, through the contact stone, requested her return. He knows that if Sophia Black were there, she could resolve the situation immediately. At night, a massive, uncontrollable slime ravages the capital, burning and absorbing everything in its path. Cry wakes up terrified, wondering if the slime is really that terrible. At that moment, Liz wakes up beside him and asks if he's okay. Apparently, she has a habit of sneaking into Cry's bed without him noticing. Liz asks if he has any plans for the day. Cry asks if he won't be training Tino, and Liz replies that she agreed to give Tino the day off to recover, so she decided to rest as well. Cry decides that he should stop worrying so much and agrees to go out with her that day. Liz, excited, pounces on him. In the morning, Gank personally goes to the guild to find Cry. Seeing him, she tries to talk to him, but Liz, annoyed, says that Cry is busy during the day. Gank is surprised to see Liz and asks her what happened at the Night Palace, reminding her that she asked him for a report after clearing a level 7 chamber. Furious, Liz tells him that he relies too much on Cry and that they should start relying on themselves. Gank starts to get angry, and Liz, more upset by the interruption of their date, kicks Gank, but he easily blocks her. Gank tells her that even someone as calm as him has a limit. The two start a fight, so Cry invites Gank's assistant Kana to have tea together. There, Kana asks him if he has noticed anything unusual at the White Wolf's lair. Cry answers no and confirms that he was there for another reason. Kana wants to know more about it, but Cry, embarrassed, says that he can't yet, fearing that there might be a spy among them. He still agrees to give guild support to help her. The fight between Gank and Liz continues, and the office is being destroyed. Liz mocks Gank's lack of physical fitness, as he now works in an office. Liz is willing to spare his life for old time's sake, which angers Gank, who wants to teach him a lesson. Cry and Kaina return and see them fighting. Cry is not surprised that Gank can keep up with Liz, as he was once a level 7 hunter, known as the Demon of War. Cry stops the fight, tells them that they are done talking, and asks Gank to calm down. He insists that she is the only one who is upset, but Liz, happy and excited, runs to Cry. Everyone calms down, and Gank agrees to return to his office. Cry and Liz walk through the streets of the capital. She comments that Gank has weakened, and that time catches up with everyone. Cry points out that Gank has not weakened, and that it is unfair to compare him to an active hunter. Liz insists that she is even stronger, as he was never able to handle the Dark Palace. Cry asks if there were any very strong enemies there. She happily replies that they were the strongest she has ever faced. Cry then asks if they were stronger than the leader of the White Wolf's den, but he was so weak to her that she doesn't even remember him. The rest of his companions are still in the Dark Palace, and Cry hopes they'll return soon to help solve the slime problem. Suddenly, Liz hands her things to Cry and goes to restrain a man, saying that he looked suspicious. Cry asks her to let him go and apologizes as the man runs away. Liz is surprised that she let him go, hugs him, and says that he's a great actor. Cry has no idea what's going on. The man arrives at an abandoned place, wondering how he's been discovered. Gark is furious that Cry once again evaded their meeting and sent Sven with his team the Obsidian Cross instead. With no other choice, and trusting Sven, Gark asks him to go to the White Wolf's lair to investigate. Sven agrees, but soon finds himself surrounded by wolves and realizes that this was all part of Cry's plan. Meanwhile, in the capital, Cry is walking through the streets when an excited Liz grabs his arm, celebrating that she has a date with Cry again. They enter the most dangerous neighborhood in the city, and some men look at them in fear, wondering what two powerful seekers are doing there. Seeing how dangerous the area is, Liz asks Cry if he has something to do there. Cry tells her yes. It turns out that Eva gave him some very interesting information. Apparently, there have been several disappearances on those streets, which isn't unusual for those places, but Cry fears that it might be due to Citri's slime. Also, there's a new ice cream shop nearby, and Eva planned their date very well. Finding nothing unusual, Cry invites Liz to the new ice cream shop, which excites her. Meanwhile, inside a house, the man Liz attacked earlier for keeping an eye on them spies on them from afar. He wonders if letting him go was a trap to follow him. He knows he's in trouble since tortured souls can't figure out that the ice cream shop is a front for a laboratory. He decides that he should close the shop, but at that moment, he's startled when a cute girl named Sophia walks into the room. Meanwhile, outside the shop, Liz insistently knocks on the door to the point of deciding to break it down. Cry calms her down and tells her it's closed, but Liz replies that she smells someone inside and swears the store was open just a minute ago. Inside, the man listens in fear. Cry assumes they ran out of ice cream, and that's why they closed early. Liz gives up, and they both leave. At the guild, Cry laments that he still cannot find the slime from Citri. He wonders if it really is that dangerous and if it's truly loose in the capital. He asks Liz when Citri will return. Liz tells him that she doesn't need him and that she is there for whatever he wants. Cry tells her he needs her knowledge of magical organisms. Liz admits that Citri is the expert on that and mentions that she took many things on her last mission, so it will probably take her a long time to come back. Cry gets anxious and tries to think positively. Eva enters the office and informs Cry that Sven and his team have already been sent to investigate the White Wolf's den. Tomorrow, a research group will also be sent out with a treasure expert. Cry realizes that this situation is very serious, but since he avoided the mission, he doesn't care. Eva notices that something is troubling Cry, but he denies it and confidently accepts that the group will do well on their mission. In a dark assembly at the Akashic Tower, the group discusses how Tortured Souls has discovered one of their laboratories. They suspect that their intelligence team is much better, which is why they could see through such a perfect front as the ice cream parlor. They wonder what their next step should be now that they are under the scrutiny of 1,000 tricks. The elder, the leader of the group, asks Sophia for her opinion. Without hesitation, she proposes to fight. Her companions believe that facing a level 8 hunter is completely insane, but Sophia is sure they have a chance, and besides, she has a new defense system that she believes will be able to handle it. She knows that eliminating them is the only way to keep their operations secret. The elder agrees, understanding that now that they have been discovered, the only option left is to fight. He gives Sophia the authority to attack as she sees fit. Tino takes a shower, and after finishing, checks his body in amazement, finding no bruises or scratches after his intense training. He assumes that after finishing, Liz must have given him a potion bath to heal his body. He wonders how he can still be alive. Tino goes to the guild and discovers that there are many carriages at the entrance. In the reception area, he sees many members waiting. Tino approaches someone and asks what's happening. The person replies that they are being deployed to the White Wolf's den because Ark is indisposed. The boy is concerned that they want to send a level 7 hunter to a level 3 chamber, which sounds dangerous. Tino asks if he thinks they can all handle the job. The boy doubts it and knows that Sven is not at Ark's level. The only ones who could substitute them are tortured souls. The idea that the White Wolf's den could be even more dangerous than when she went scares Tino. Cry steps into the lobby with Eva and is surprised to see so many people. Cry asks if it's some kind of party, but Eva replies that it's the team she mentioned the day before. Still, Cry doesn't understand why there are so many. Eva responds that since she couldn't send Ark, she decided to form a team that would be comparable. Cry, embarrassed, thinks that he just wanted to send Ark because he is capable and kind. Sending so many people in his place will cost a lot of money. Cry tells her that since her members are the best in the capital, it will be enough to send half. Upon hearing this, everyone panics, as they know they are not at Ark's level. Eva calls for everyone's attention and asks them to be quiet because Cry wants to talk to them. Cry is embarrassed but has to speak. He tells them that the chamber is level 3 and assures them that half will be enough. Immediately, they accuse him of lying and beg him for mercy, knowing that they won't succeed if they don't all go. Cry asks Eva if the mission has any reward. Eva replies that it does, and even Gank has increased the funds. This is a relief, as it resolves the issue of money. Now the only concern is the slime from Citri, which he now suspects is in the White Wolf's den. Cry agrees that everyone present should go on the mission. He knows that if so many people go and nothing happens, he can relax. Liz, who appears among the crowd, mockingly says that all of this is ridiculous, and that they don't need so many people. She could even handle it on her own. The Seekers get annoyed and retort that she can only say that because she is supernaturally strong. She, in a very menacing tone, tells them that's why they're stuck at their level. With one leap, she reaches Cry and proposes that she and Tino will handle the mission on their own. Cry immediately refuses. Liz asks him why he's refusing. Cry thinks that he doesn't want to expose Tino to that chamber again, and he's already gathered all these people. Cry doesn't give her an explanation and orders everyone present to go. Eva picks up the order and asks if he'll be leading them personally. Hearing this, everyone gets excited and reassured, knowing that if a level 8 hunter like him guides them, they'll have nothing to worry about. Nervous, Cry refuses, saying that surely Sven will be able to lead them. Eva reminds him that Sven is already on the mission and cannot lead them. Then Cry gets an idea. He agrees to lead them, but tells them he has something pending in the capital, and when he's done, he'll join them. Until then, he leaves Sven in charge. Eva understands and orders everyone to prepare for departure. Cry smiles, as his plan was a success. He'll let time pass, and when the mission is completed, he'll show up at the end as if nothing happened. Meanwhile, Sven defeats the phantoms in the chamber. Although they have leveled up, they are not worthy opponents for the Obsidian Cross. Liz insists to Cry to let her go on the mission, but he keeps refusing, telling her he needs her for a special mission, knowing that otherwise, she'll take Tino to the chamber. Liz agrees excitedly. One of the Seekers asks Cry if there's anything they should know. He tells them that if they see a slime in the chamber, they should be careful, as it's not an ordinary slime. The Seeker doesn't understand what he means, but takes note. The members of the Akashic Tower prepare for their confrontation. Their mission is to protect the mana agitation device, which is supposed to guide them to the truth. Some members doubt that facing so many guild members and the tortured souls is the best idea, but Sophia insists they have nothing to worry about. She's confident her defense system can repel them without any issues. Additionally, she knows that right now in the capital, there are only 3 members of the tortured souls: Cry, Liz, and Citri Smart. Her companion asks how she knows all this. She tells him she has eyes beyond where the Akashic Tower can see. She knows that Liz can be countered with materials resistant to physical attacks, and Cry is only the brains, so his abilities are limited to his team. The Elder assumes that Citri will be the only problem, but Sophia assures him her system has protections that no law-abiding alchemist can overcome. She even confesses that Citri is her nemesis, and she's willing to do whatever it takes to eliminate her. Sophia knows that Citri is interested in this cult due to a study she presented, and she asks the Elder to grant her all the resources to eliminate the intruders. The Elder agrees and orders everyone to follow Sophia's commands. Sven leads his companions through the corridors. His young companion, Hendrix, thinks the situation was exaggerated and that they weren't really needed. He even suspects they were only sent to fix one of Cry's mistakes. Sven mocks his young naivety for doubting the master. He gets a call, answers, and informs his companions that things have changed. They must exit, and he orders Hendrix to blow the emergency whistle. Outside, a group of Seekers scolds Sven for using the alert recklessly. They also inform him that they detected a strange slime in the chamber and ask if they found anything. Sven says no, and mentions that they sounded the alarm as a gesture of good faith. If they had been the tortured souls, they never would have done so, as weak Seekers like them don't interest them, so they would have left them to their fate. But his group's philosophy is not to sacrifice lives. The man tells him the alert was over a simple slime, which is a low-class phantom. Sven recounts the time Cry invited them to see the cherry blossoms. For some reason he didn't understand. Cry asked them to come armed, and in the middle of their party, the place transformed into a treasure chamber, now known as the Prismatic Garden. He assures them that Cry can see the future, and his warnings shouldn't be taken lightly. It seems that Sven managed to obtain the sound stone they were tasked to find. He wonders what information they'll get from it. At the guild, Liz is impatient about the special mission. Cry wonders what he should do next when someone knocks on the door. It's Citri, who informs him that there's a powerful enemy they must take care of immediately. If you've reached this point in the video, don't forget to leave the word Exquisito in the comments. Thank you very much, and see you in the next video.